Welcome to the NeCTAR Research Cloud video tutorials. This tutorial will show us how to launch a VM. We're going to use the Web2GO image as our starting point because it has a pre-installation of WordPress and MediaWiki, so you can have a website up and running in a matter of minutes. Now I'm going to assume that you've completed the first tutorial, which talked about key pairs and security groups. If you haven't, please review those to make sure that you have created appropriate key pairs and security groups in order to proceed. So what we're going to do is click on Images, find the Web2GO image and click Launch. This brings us to the Launch Instance window. We put in a server name. For many of the VMs that we launch here, we don't actually need user data, but we can use the user data as a way of sending metadata to the VM that's going to be launched. In the case of Web2GO, we do need to use user data. At the moment, the Web2GO image has a username for the WordPress and MediaWiki sites called myuser and a password of mypassword. This is shared by anybody who launches this VM from Web2GO. In order to remove that and put in your own username and password, we ask you to put in some user data here. The first line is going to be used as the username. The second line will become the password. The password is used in numerous places, such as the admin and root accounts for the MySQL databases. The username is used in one or two places, but predominantly we'll still use the root and admin passwords. The flavor is the size of the VM that we're going to use. You can use, the default is one, a small single core VM, but you can, if you've got a free account, you can use the medium, which is up to two cores, and if you have an extended allocation, you'll be able to use the larger ones as well. You can also see over at the side there the quotas, how much you have available. In the key name, you need to choose a key. This key, my new key, we created in the tutorial, the previous tutorial. It's very important that you do use a key. Even though my Web2GO doesn't require you to use SSH access, if you want to maintain the VM, you will need to be able to look after the security side of it as well, and that means you will need to SSH, so you will need a key. The security groups, because you're going to use SSH, I've just gotten rid of the default group there because it doesn't have anything. The security group we're going to use is the one we created in the previous tutorial called Basic Rules. If you remember, this allows SSH, HTTP and HTTPS. The HTTP and HTTPS are what we'll use for our web services, but we also want to be able to use SSH if we need to do patching and service updates and so on. Now we can click Launch Instance. We're now taken back to the Instances tab, and we can see the ID and name, key, and the security group of our new virtual machine. It's currently in a build state, which means it's being prepared, and no IP has been allocated. That will change to active in a few minutes. If we click on Auto Refresh, we won't have to keep clicking it, it'll just update again in a minute. We now have an IP allocated, but the VM is still listing as in a build state. We're now in an active state. Now this means the VM has been created and is running. However, it probably isn't available yet. Much like a computer, when you turn it on, you've got to wait for the operating system to boot up before you can actually use it. We can make take a copy of this IP, copy to the clipboard, start a new window, and paste it in. You'll need to remove the dot if you do a cut and paste. You can type it in manually if you wish. If we try and visit that page, we'll probably get a fail if we do so too soon. Essentially, it means that the server has not yet come up completely. If this happens, just wait for a few minutes and try again. Depending on how busy the Research Cloud is in terms of this part of it, it could take between 30 seconds and 5 minutes. If you see this page, it means the web server is running, but the startup script has not yet completed. Just hit refresh again. When you finally refresh and see the Welcome to your Web2GO instant web server, you should see that you now have links to the WordPress site, the MediaWiki site, and PHPMyAdmin. This means your web server is up and running and is working properly. Now, it's very important that you go straight to the WordPress site and fill in all of the details. The reason for this is that at the moment it doesn't use any of the preset usernames and passwords that we passed through. Unfortunately, it's not possible to do that without creating complications for the image. So you'll need to set that manually yourself. Very quick to do. And in a few seconds you have an operating WordPress site. You can also go to MediaWiki. As mentioned in the user guide, the login for MediaWiki doesn't use the username that we passed through, it uses admin, but it does use the password. And operates as you would expect. The lucky last is PHPMyAdmin. Now you can use the username you passed through, or you can use root. The password is the one you passed through. PHPMyAdmin allows you to manage the databases directly. If you decide to clone this image by creating a snapshot and launch it again, you will find that there's a good chance you won't get the same IP. Unfortunately, WordPress actually encodes the IP directly into the database, so you would need to export the WordPress database, put it into a text editor like Notepad, and do a find and replace on the IP address, changing the old IP address to the new IP address. You can then import the database back in to your new VM, and everything should work fine. All of your media will still be in place. Well, that's it for this tutorial. Hopefully I'll catch up with you in the next one. Thanks.